If you've spent your life chasing success, checking every box, and still wondering, is this all there is? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Overachievers Oracle podcast, a sacred space where we dive into the lives of professional women who've been taught to measure their worth by how much they achieve. Here, we explore a spiritually rooted path to untangle ourselves from hustle culture and reconnect with who we truly are. I'm your host, Dr. Giavanni Washington, a former overachiever turned liberation guide, and I'm here to walk you through this journey. Welcome to the show. Let me ask you something. When was the last time that you rested, truly rested, without guilt? When was the last time that you felt joy, not as a reward for productivity, but because you exist? If you don't have an answer, you're not alone, because for many of us, especially overachievers, and especially Black women, rest and joy are the things that we sacrifice first. But what if I told you that these were also the keys to our freedom? Welcome to the Overachievers Oracle, the podcast where we break free from the myths of productivity, reclaim rest as a revolutionary act, and redefine success beyond the hustle. I'm Dr. Giavanni Washington, your host and recovered overachiever. This podcast is a space to unlearn the belief that your worth is tied to your work. You're going to get real talk about what it means to step out of burnout and into liberation. And you're going to find stories, tools, and wisdom to help you build a life of ease, joy, and power. So if you've ever felt like no matter how much you achieve, it's not enough, if you've ever wondered why you are still exhausted after checking every box, if you've ever asked yourself, is there more to life than this hustle? You're in the right place. This space is for overachievers, the ones who get things done, who carry entire communities, and who have mastered excellence but struggle with rest. It's for those of us who have spent our lives proving our worth, but now find ourselves asking, what happens if I stop? Who am I beyond my work? We will examine common archetypes that we carry, like the strong Black woman, the one who carries everything without complaint until she breaks. We'll look at the good girl who plays by the rules, overgives, and believes she has to earn her place. And the invisible worker who gives, nurtures, and leads behind the scenes but rarely gets recognition. All of these are some version of the overachiever. And here's the hard truth. These roles are exhausting. They were never meant to set us free. They're designed to keep us running, to keep us proving our worth. But we are breaking out of that fight right here, right now. So I want to tell you a little story about how I have bought wholeheartedly into this lie. I used to believe that my value was completely tied to my accomplishments, my degrees, my achievements, the organization that I've led. But burnout hit hard and it forced me to reckon with a painful truth. I didn't know who I was without my work, without my achievements. So I'm going to tell you a story where you can see how the personal intertwines with the professional. I hold a PhD from UCLA. Actually, I hold a bachelor's degree from Florida Agricultural Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Florida. I hold a master's degree in public health from University of Miami in Miami, Florida. And I hold a master's degree in policy analysis from the Pardee Rand Graduate School and this 7-year PhD from UCLA. So I was 100% in school for 16 years after I graduated high school. And throughout all my time at the academic space, I saw firsthand how Black women's labor and intellectual contributions were often undervalued, even in these so-called spiritual spaces of academia. I spent years navigating this world, proving my worth through papers, through research, through leadership, only to find that no amount of achievement could actually shield me from the burnout. I've led organizations. I've turned struggling programs into thriving spaces. I've secured major funding to uplift Black communities. Several times, I have 10 times the income of an organization, but at what cost? I'm giving everything to this organization with so little left for myself. And in every leadership role, I've been the fixer, the only one in the room. We'll talk about OBOT, a woman named Karen who has a podcast called The Sandwich Years, talks about being the only Black one there, the OBOT. I was carrying the weight of success for the organization at the expense of my personal sanity. But then, my biggest work, the most fulfilling, most true work that I've done to date, has been my work with the Black goddesses. I stopped trying to fit into systems that weren't built for me, and I created my own. And the Black Goddess Within, Oracle decks and company were born out of a desire to see Black women reflected in spiritual spaces. I wanted to center our divinity. I wanted to remind us that we don't have to earn rest, joy, or belonging, that we are, in fact, already worthy. The Black Goddess Within Oracle deck was a love letter to our ancestors. It's a reclamation of images and the wisdom that have been erased. and it's just the beginning. But let me tell you what happened on the way to the deck. About a year ago, I was sitting at dinner at this cute little Italian restaurant in El Segundo, having a delightful dinner with a friend from out of town, and I felt increasingly weird, and I can only describe it as I felt lightheaded inside of my body, and I was tingly all over. And these are symptoms that I didn't associate with anything in particular, so I didn't know what was going on. But the feeling became so intense that I knew, I got really clear. I was like, oh, we have to go to the hospital right now. So if we go back in time about 6 or 8 months, I was in probably the most stressed I'd ever been in my life. What led up to the release of the deck in December of 2023 was 6 months of working 12-hour days. My team grew from 2 people to 6 people. We had a PR person. We were on TV. We were branding the company. We were building a website for the first time. We finally achieved visual coherence across all sites, like all platforms. It was very exciting, but also very nerve-wracking. We were having a big launch party. And also, my son had surgery the month before the deck launched. My mother had a life-threatening event 3 times. We thought she was going to die. My husband lost his job. And this was all happening, while we're planning this launch, and we're planning a book tour. It was really, really stressful. And I remember telling people that I should be stressed, but my to-do list is so long, I don't have time to feel it. So yes, I have 4 degrees. Yes, I've led organizations. Yes, I'm a published author. Yes, I've spoken at major institutions. But none of that matters more than what I've lived. The moments when the exhaustion took me to the edge, when I realized that success was not saving me, and when my ancestors whispered, there's got to be another way. And they did that by putting my ass in the hospital and making me stop, right? I had to unlearn that lie that my worth was tied to my work. I had to choose myself before the world chose for me. And that choice over and over again is what liberation looks like. So this isn't just something that I'm talking about. This is something that I've lived and experienced. And if you're listening, you're ready to live it too. I built this podcast as a sanctuary, a space where we don't just talk about healing, we embody it. So here we are reclaiming rest, not as a privilege, but as a right. We are reclaiming joy as something we don't have to earn. We are reclaiming liberation as a shift in how we see ourselves, not just something that we chase. And finally, we are reclaiming ancestral wisdom because our ancestors did not survive for us to burn ourselves out. So each week in this first season, you can expect solo deep dives into the struggles of overachievers and how to break free. You can expect stories that challenge the myths of productivity and success. And you can expect rituals, reflections, and spiritual tools that help you shift from exhaustion to ease. You can consider this podcast a mirror, a guide, and sometimes a loving call out. So listening to this podcast will help you shift from scarcity to abundance. It will help you learn to trust yourself again. It will help you move beyond the hustle. It will help you break generational cycles. And it will help you redefine power and joy. Because when we do these things, we wake up without the weight of having to prove ourselves. We move through life with a deep sense of peace. We have success that's defined on our own terms and rooted in joy and alignment and in freedom. And when we breathe, when we inhale and when we exhale, our breath is powered by the knowledge that we are already enough. And so that's what we're building here. Not just a conversation, but a new way of being. And this podcast isn't just about the individual, our personal transformation. It's also about collective liberation. We're dismantling the belief that women's worth, especially Black women's worth, is tied to productivity, is tied to output. And that is revolutionary. Because when Black women rest, systems shake. When we reclaim joy, we disrupt oppression. And when we refuse to be defined by our labor, we change everything. In the next few episodes, we're going to get real about what it actually takes to untangle ourselves from hustle culture and step fully into liberation. We're going to talk about why success doesn't always bring fulfillment, why quitting your job won't fix burnout, and the deeper reason why we resist slowing down. So remember, you are enough, not because of what you do, but simply because you are. Rest is your birthright. Joy is your compass, and liberation, that's your inheritance. Welcome to the Overachievers Oracle.